So define it this way. What do you do in a small, what do you do with empowering youth in a small, what's the big difference between the small and the medium, let's say?
Mhm. Yeah. So the medium to large groups, so the smaller, like you said, there's going to be fewer things to do, fewer responsibilities, fewer things to delegate because there's simply just less opportunities to engage with a larger number of students. Obviously, when you get to medium and large, you get more guests, you have more roles. Somebody can be a welcoming committee, somebody could be a part of the worship team, someone can be a part of the tech team if your room is big enough and your service is big enough. So you have more opportunities that grow as you grow larger. And so regardless of the size, though, one thing that they are going to probably guard more is because you get some students that want to hide their feelings and their emotions, but one thing I think that they guard even more than that is their friends list. And so in order for them to be wanting to bring their friends to the youth ministry, regardless of the
Right.
sizes, it's not that they don't trust or do trust the youth pastor. Most do, and that's not the issue. The question is do they trust their peers enough? Because when they bring their friend over to the youth service, it's the friends, it's the peers that are going to be loving on that new guest. And so when you're a small youth ministry, really hone in on what does it mean to be to relationship build with these new guests coming in, because you want to be able to love on them and just bless them in a marvelous way. And then when you start to grow into the medium size, then you can say, okay, now we've got a team that can do this and a team that can do that. And you can start to see, okay, what's your spiritual gifts? You have those little assessment quizzes that you can take to find out, and you sort of drop people in. And then finally, when you get to the larger size, then you've got a whole system going on,
Yeah.
and where you've got empowered team leaders that can really just sort of be the guides and rally these folks in. And then you have dates set in advance of how the students are going to get involved. And I'm sure we're going to get into that as well.
Oh,
But
sure. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, I think you're right on, because I don't think you can, I think you have to be intentional is what I'm hearing. How you grow from empowering students in a small youth ministry to empowering students in a large ministry, because if you're not intentional about it, you'll start running things the way you've always run them,
Yeah.
and that some principles from a small group don't translate to a medium group,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they don't transfer. Your role as the leader changes
Yes.
from small to medium to large, because if your role doesn't change, then that's going to probably inhibit the opportunities
Yeah.
that students can really get involved in, and what leaders will get involved in. So let me then go back to this then. How do you balance, and this question is not on our list, Sean, so you're gonna have to think on your feet here, because the challenge, and I can speak of myself, that one of the challenges about having your adult leaders and your student leaders is that when you give away your ministry to student leaders, there's not as much for your adult leaders to do. Now, I can say that maybe from a small youth group, right? You say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, the
Mm-hmm.
kids run the show, the kids do the thing. And then your adults are like, well, what do I do? And why don't I get to sing in the band? And why don't I get to do these things? Why do the kids get all the opportunities? I signed up to do this. And so how then do you meet the challenges, and how does those that are watching and those that are listening meet the challenges of adults who says, well, I signed up for youth ministry, I have gifts and talents,
Mm-hmm.
but you're doing student empowerment ministry, but they have gifts and talents. So how do you strike then the balance between those two things,
Yeah.
that
And
tension?
yes, absolutely. Great question. I wanted to just simply ask the question is are we instilling into the youth ministry thinking about church more than just on Sundays at 12 o'clock or 10 a.m., depending on when you have your service?
Right.
What about Monday through Saturday? And so this sort of opens up the concept of, well, what can you do? And then if you have youth leaders that are interested in wanting to do a little bit more throughout the week, I would encourage folks, hey, have you ever had the opportunity of mentoring the students that are placed into your care? And you'd want to establish a good ratio of students to leaders, right? You don't want to have an abundance of leaders and then you're standing around, you got 10 leaders and 5 students. That's just not, a proper,
Not good math.
right? You
Not
know,
good math.
no, I don't want to be the scientific formula of how many students to leaders ratio. I mean, I'm sure that's up for discussion among other people, but at least have some sort of ability where you can place different students into a leader's care. So and we'll get into this more about with empowered team leaders, is that you can have youth leaders double up as a youth leader that mentors and builds a relationship with a student on a normal basis throughout the
Mm-hmm.
week. But then that same person can also be an empowered team leader where they actually do and help out with the coaching. See, mentoring and coaching is different. It's the coaching of a spiritual gift to help a student do something for a future service coming up. So you can sort of plan ahead if you want to with your empowered teams. But there is a little bit more of an organic approach to smaller groups. I mean, you can go to a coffee shop on a whim, and or
Sure.
you can go to the local amusement park and just on the fly. But you know, when you start to get to a medium size, you can't do that because you might leave Johnny or Susie behind if you do it the day before. You have
Right.
to start planning ahead. So yeah, there's that balance that you have to strike with that.
Right. And that once again goes back to intention. I hear you saying, where not only do you have to be, you have to be able to plan, you have to be able to structure the youth ministry in such a way where your leaders get it. They have to understand that they're not coming into a traditional youth ministry where the leaders, the adults do everything, and
Mm-hmm.
the youth just watch you
Yeah. Yeah.
perform. And you have to then lay out opportunities for the leaders to say, okay, you may not get, and tell them up front, right? Tell them up front, listen, you may not get your shot every week at being whatever. I mean, this is going to be students being empowered and so forth. Most of your ministry will be done outside of this meeting.